Oh, we're live.
All right, we're live on meeting number 3, talking about
Culture.
culture.
Organizational culture.
Organizational culture. Anybody want to start?
I thought the Zappos video was really cool. Something that I found that was really interesting was they really tried to incorporate life into work, and which is interesting. And I think there's positives and minuses to it. The positive was that they treated work as kind of an extension of life, and not a separation between work and life, and that really enables the employers to have a good time and really socialize with each other, and through that be able to create relationships and connections that really help them foster new ideas and innovation and that kind of stuff, and also bring work home with them in a positive way. Of he was saying, I think his name was Tim Shea.
Yeah.
Was it Tim? Yeah, and he was saying how his employers, he wants them to think about it in the shower when they get home, and cooking dinner and that kind of stuff, which I think is really cool. I think it's really cool, but also you have to kind of be careful of that in the sense that you don't want to take work home with you too much. But I think that it was more so done in a positive way, and that was something that was really cool that he was able to evoke out of his employees. So yeah.
I think it's interesting when you call out the difference with the certain boundaries, right? So for me personally, coming from a corporation at corporate with Starbucks, and then moving into a startup company as a vice president, and really trying to decide what I didn't like about Starbucks culture-wise, and moving that into here. And one thing that I remember at Starbucks was that reservation. Supervisors and managers can be close, but they can't be friends, right? There's different pieces. Baristas and supervisors getting close, it gets all these different pieces, and I remember how much I hated it. My best friend was my former man. My current best friend was my former manager, and it made work less comfortable to not be able to laugh with her the same way we did the week before outside of work, right? So one thing that I've incorporated in our organizational culture here, when you talk about not taking work home with you, I'm probably the worst offender because I work from home. But my point is that what we've tried to encourage and foster with my team and the development of the person who's taking my role now is to look at this development of, as we grow and add people to this company, as not necessarily overtaking their life, but them allowing them to bring examples from their life to grow this customer service sector, right? To really allow it. So one thing we were talking about today was, what does customer service look like? Let's let them write it. Let's let them bring examples and build what that sector of the company is going to look like based off of what they bring. And I was reading in the chapter with I have it right here, the rituals, rites, and routines. And that's involved repeated patterns of behavior, saying hello in the morning. One thing that we just did was progress reports for our teams, just to kind of let them know where we're at. It's page 238 if you are looking. And what we've started is a happy Monday, happy Tuesday, and trying to see who will initiate that other than the manager. And we all work from home, so we've started to see, we do little mimes from Google, and we were just talking about, does this interfere with work or does it make it more fun? And what we're starting to see is people coming out and saying, wow, I don't have anyone sitting next to me, but I feel like you're all right here. They're starting to develop what that culture looks like. So I thought it was interesting when you call out that boundary line, right? Where how far do you push your life into it and how far do you not? And I think in my personal life, Starbucks, corporate, and then what I'm doing now are completely different when it comes to developing culture. So just a lot of notes, sorry.
No, I mean, speaking to your point, since I do still work for Starbucks, it is a challenge, as a manager, to have where is that line of too close as being friends, and with your followers, and even with my baristas as well. I work with these people over 40 hours a week. I see them all the time. They, in a sense, I've said before, become my children. I care about them. So when personal things are happening in their lives, okay, how do I do that boundary of being their manager and not their friend without the conflict of interest that is in our guidelines and stuff like that as a manager? But I think in my store, that's how how you build your culture, though. You got
also
to get
making them feel valued, right?
like if they come to work and I see, you know, one of my partners like really excited because she got engaged and not say anything like congratulations or like be joyful for her, what kind of a person am I? Like as a manager and just personally, you know? So it's really hard to build that culture in a corporate world. You know, as you're saying, like on, you know, happy Mondays and happy Tuesdays, like you have that freedom, which in a sense, like I wish we could have in that world.
So different. So different than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I think on that note too, with the ability to have that freedom, it's been really interesting to see. Like, 'cause my owners have been they're like, Leah, do what you want, just make good decisions, right? And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, my good decision is, how was your weekend, and how are you feeling going into your day, so that I can know. Like, one thing we've been really keen to when we build is making sure that each person feels like an individual, right? When we're learning about you, we want to know how you're doing, to the point where we can tell. I can say, hey, Raina, you know, Leonor really feels there's something not right in her responses. Can you check on her? It turns out she's been sick for 3 days and didn't tell us, right? So there's that different pieces, and I think when we shape the culture, as it was talking about, is it entertaining? Is it engaging? I think that if there's that piece of your life that you have to let in, like you're saying, 40 hours a week, that's your family. You're there more than your home. Especially you as a manager, right? Like, you're more there than your home. So what's that point where we start to develop a culture, especially when your rules are coming from corporate? How does that allow you to grow a team and care about them when sometimes it's just putting on an apron and going home and they don't feel cared about? So when it comes to that second part of that, or that piece of that question was talking about, are leaders able to shape culture? Absolutely.
I think that's something that I see in my organization right now. I work for a nonprofit called Grow NYC, and there's like two main managers of the department that I work for, and one of them, both of them I look up to as role models, and I think that they've really been able to, like, I foster like a friendship with them, and like, yeah, like I know that like they're like engaged or whatever, but it's like, it's more so, it's a friendship, but also like a mentorship, in the sense that they've been able to kind of take me under the wing of the organization and train me, and you know, value me as an employee and a person, and see me as an individual and empower me through that. And I think because of that, like because of the way that they have handled like their job, that they have really become a role model. Both of them have really become like role models to me, and as well as friends in a work-related way. And I also think that like we're having like a barbecue next week with all of our employees, like out in Prospect Park, which is a really cool way, I think, to have kind of an outside gathering with employees, and that way kind of just get to know each other and get to know other people in the organizations. It's such a different departmentalized organization, and through that I think that also fosters like community organizational culture, because then you get to really connect with that like inner group relationship that was also talking about in a few chapters ago. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree that a leader can shape the organizational culture, because I've seen both. I've seen where a leader that motivated, had a vision, would put together activities for the organization, like outside of work, and then also getting the organization involved in charity and volunteering. And so I could see that, you know, that is how he shaped our culture, in that people were motivated and inspired and had goals that they could work towards. And then on the other hand, having a leader who just pretty much all of that went away. And then you could just see the behaviors of the followers, of the employees, just basically being disengaged and not motivated, and, you know, feeling like they were not valued anymore. So definitely I agree that a leader 100% shapes the culture of the organization.
Well, that's a really good point, Yvonne. There was another piece, this actually goes right into kind of the big little culture thing, where it's talking about when a new company is starting out, that it's usually starts with the founders and the owners, right? And they're kind of hiring down people that can help build that culture, right? and that leadership gets passed down to the next generation, right? So if someone leaves that's above, hopefully that intent and those goals have been passed down effectively and even grown upon, right? Because like you were saying, that loss of engagement, that loss of feeling meaningful, right, kind of goes away when it filters out the door. And I think that's really interesting. Actually, did you realize there's a Starbucks example in our book? I guess when I read that case study thing. Interesting is I actually, as this processes when I talk with you guys, because it always does, when I just got this promotion, it talks about how your founders start to move out, your owners start to move out, and they start putting the responsibility onto the next person. In my case, that's become me, but I actually rely on the people under me to keep it growing, right? And I just think I'll continue to hammer home that it's the way we choose to lead and the way that we have that, like we talked about last week with the different types of powers. How do we use them? Because in your point, Yvonne, if it's used effectively and then you have someone coming underneath who doesn't use it effectively, that chance to pull those strings and keep the growth, it goes away. And I think it's completely different for someone like Sheila in Starbucks, where there's a lot more strings to pull to get to the top puppet. Yeah. You're trying to figure out how to change an entire established culture. Two very different things. But I think it all depends on how you frame it, right? Maybe it's store to store has a different form of leadership. And we see that when we go in for our refills at different Starbucks. So, right? So, anyways, good point.
One thing I was thinking about too is like something to keep in mind is not every follower is. Sometimes there's followers that don't want to follow that culture. Like for instance, the leader that we had who was engaging and motivating and put something together for the organization to do things outside of work, and then the volunteering and charity. There was just some people that just weren't into that, or just kind of like were in their own little world. And sometimes it's just something I was thinking about is somebody who's engaging and motivating, but then there might be followers who just aren't going to follow that culture, or
no, totally.
Yeah, and it made me certain people that were kind of like that. We're like, I'm just not, I just want to come in, do my work, and leave. I don't want to be part of
passive.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, know. So.
And I think
oh, go ahead.
No, I think that's you're gonna get that in any organization that you have that's like that, in the sense that there will be people who want to enjoy the charity and the giving and all the different components that go into that organizational culture, and then there are people who kind of are stragglers who just don't want to, and it's just kind of their personality and who they are. So.
Well, and what I wonder on that is how much of that goes into hiring.
Right? Yeah.
So who's in charge of hiring, and what are they hiring based on? Because I can tell you one thing that's been really different for me in my experience is we have handpicked every single person who works at my company. Handpicked. I've taken, by the way, Sheila, sorry, I've taken 3 Starbucks employees. Whoops. But and for Sheila, for you, you've got a big fish pool, right? You've got all of these applicants, and you have to weed through. We don't have an open application process. Someone internally tells me a name, I'll get their resume, but I'll look at their resume, but I'll actually have a call with them and say, are you going to be a good fit? If I called you, I know that you can do the job, but I want to know if you're going to be a good fit. And because there's everyone here will drop everything to do what's needed, and I can't think of one straggler, right? Obviously, we have a luxury because we have, 35 employees. Okay, I get that. I'm not oblivious to that, but it interests me how you look at someone and you and Yvonne in bigger companies and Shelby in your work world, where are the right people doing the hiring, and what are they looking for? I know your sheet, Sheila, is a list of questions. Like, how much can you modify that, right? Is it handed down by corporate what you have to ask? And probably is, because you have a bigger legal department. I don't even have one. I have legal advice. I don't even have one, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how much of that goes into who is doing the hiring and how much of the questions that gives you the actual really biggest chance to develop the culture you're looking for, right?
Mhm.
I wonder, like, especially with you, Shelby, and your nonprofit. I don't know a whole lot about nonprofit. That intrigues me. I'm curious, like, if you guys have seen, like, your manager, you watched him do interviews, and you're like, really, that's who you picked, like, from first impression, from what you could see. It's just, it intrigues me. It kind of starts a new train of thought of, what are they asking, and is it the kind of questions that you're asking that gauge towards your core values? I don't know.
Something that, like, I want to kind of switch circles. You talk about nonprofit, and I want to kind of switch circles, and something that I found that was really interesting. The Zappos video that I see a lot in my work is kind of just the physical environment. And so, like, something that is set up, Grow NYC, is we have an office, but then we're also, like, work remotely around the city. But in our office, like, it's a very open office, and, like, my two managers, like, basically don't have walls. Like, it's just like an open space, and they have like 2 computers, so like anyone in the office can like come up and approach them. And I thought that was really interesting in the sense that Shay and Zappos like had his own little cubicle, and it wasn't like 4 walls. Like, he had like someone had to walk in, and that's very much the environment that we have, in the sense that everything is super open and people are getting up, talking to each other, kind of enabling kind of more collaboration. And I think that environment in any corporate office structure plays a really big role in the way that people interact and communicate and culture is formed. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, that reminds me of something as far as, like, I think in one of the discussion posts that I had wrote, I talked about leading by example. And, you know, and basically having a leader who says, you know, we want people to come out of their office, we want people to be engaged and work together and be, you know, collaborate and so on and so forth. But then you have the leader who sits in the office with the door closed all day. So
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait a second.
And that's part of the culture thing that I was mentioning earlier is, you know, one leader versus another leader, and how the difference, you could see the difference in how the two led and their leadership styles and how it changed the culture of the company, basically.
So interesting. I actually had that conversation with the person taking my role today. He was like, well, I'm going to have this cover here and this cover there. And I'm like, but have you done that? Have you demonstrated that in a situation where this piece is moving and this piece is moving, this piece is moving, that you would do that? That's how you're going to gain that followership, right? Especially in a place where we don't sit next to each other. So, right, the other environment is the environment I work in, which is at my desk with my cat at home. So that's a whole nother different culture. So how do we develop, Shelby, you're saying open cubicles. I love that. When I was at corporate, my manager was afraid of his director because he sat in a glass office.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Yeah.
but his name is Chris. Like, he's just a person, right? So I think it comes in with that followership attitude, too. Like, can you work in an at-home environment? Or what's your comfort level with approaching your director who's in a glass office or a tight, closed office? Is there comfort? Have they developed comfort, to Yvonne's point? Are they demonstrating that it's okay? Is the door open or is it closed? And if it's closed, do you know you can knock or do you just go in? Like, there's so many questions. Through your head, trying to protect yourself too, right? So I totally agree with that. I think there's so many different work environments, and that's one thing we ask people when we interview is, can you sit at home by yourself for 8 or more hours? How's that going to change socially for you? Are you going to be comfortable doing it? And then making sure that the open communication lines are there too. But I love that it's the same example as if I was in my office and shut the door all day. What have I done to make that door open? So I love that call out. I love it.
Just letting you know, we're about 19 minutes and 35 seconds.
Because we like each other.
Yeah, we do.
Does anybody else, what's our limit? 15 to 20. So does anyone else have any
I just wanted to mention just the part of the Zappos as well is just the building of the brand. And having the followers engaged in that and involved in building the brand and through customer service, and I think that's great.
Well, and
Yeah. To make the brand their own.
no, that's a great call out, Yvonne. I think, especially when you're part of writing it, it means it's kind of like when you grow up and you buy your own shoes for the first time. You're like, I can't scuff them because Dad didn't buy these.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it matters to you, or I can't go outside in my socks because I bought those socks. You just start to engage in that certain sort of way. So it's a great call out. Sheila, do you have anything else to? Or
No, I think, when you guys were talking about the cubicles, it kind of made me think of like corporate, at our corporate office in Burbank out here. It's like I go there for training sessions, things sometimes, and it's like when you walk into the office, it just seems so depressing because like the district managers and stuff like that are all in the cubicles, but they're like big cubicles. So it's not like Zappos where you can like lean over and talk to someone. So they're still like almost like an office, and then our regional directors have those offices. Their doors are always closed, so it's kind of like when you're there, you want to go say hi, but to your point too, it's like, well, do I knock? Do I walk in? Are they busy? Like, what? Okay, I'll just see them next time, And that it surprises me because of how Starbucks talks about being so welcoming and genuine and all this stuff. That's like, but when you go in behind the scenes of those offices, it's like. It's like I said, it's depressing. And that's why I think reasons why I don't want to move up further to where I am right now, because I couldn't picture myself being in that office. Mm-hmm. I need to be out with my partners and my customers and laughing at work and not being sitting in a cubicle, and so to hear your guys' different viewpoints of doors being closed in the cubicles just made me think of that. So.
Well, and think of how much being given a door changes your attitude as a leader.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have a big desk on a corner office, and you start to change the way that you led before because you can shut the door.
Yeah.
That would be what I would think about.
Yep.
Okay, you guys want me to stop that?